our course with the very basic concepts of ERP, because ERP is the concept on which SAP has come up with a lot of softwares, in which S/4HANA is one of them. Now, there is a very important concept that we need to understand, is that even before we started the ERP concept, there was a very popular concept called MRP. MRP stands for Material Resource Planning. This is what we have discussed. And then ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, which happens to be a generic term, Enterprise Resource Planning. So this is a generic term that we have. Now, in MRP and ERP, a lot of companies are there, but initially there was only one company who came up, and it is quite popular, that is SAP. Now, ERP is SAP, in which we discussed that ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, and SAP stands for Systems, Applications and Products in Data Processing. Systems, applications and products, all plural, okay, and products in data processing. Okay, now this SAP is a company. SAP AG is a company which was started in Waldorf. Waldorf is a place in Germany, and this was started by 5 ex-IBM employees, and this was started in the year 1972. So in 1970s, what we discussed that these people, these 5 ex-IBM employees came, started SAP AG, and then they started off a software called real-time software, then real-time 2-tier software, then real-time 3-tier software, and now we are using, then in 2000 they have introduced something called ECC, which happens to be ERP central component, and then in the 2010, after 2010, in that particular decade, they started off something called SAP S/4HANA, in which SAP S/4HANA Finance happens to be the something which is a one particular module which is related to functional. Now, I discussed that there is a concept, like I was talking about a concept, like I've taken an example of a car. Car is a concept, like mobile phone, car, these are all concepts, but BMW is a specific company who manufactures cars, right? Now, BMW is very popular for manufacturing cars, and X7 is one model of the car. Similarly, ERP is also a concept, just like car is a concept. Anybody can manufacture a ERP software, provided it should have the basic features of an ERP. That's what we discussed. And then we have got the SAP. SAP is one company who is very popular in this ERP softwares. And S/4HANA is one of the softwares. That is what we have discussed. Now, going forward, we need to understand the various versions of SAP and what are our roles and responsibilities. Please understand that even before we start off with learning about the software, we need to be very clear about what would be our role as a consultant, what will we be doing actually. That's what is something very important. We need to be clear before we start off. So we need to understand that SAP, let's say I take an example, S/4HANA. This is a software which is provided by SAP, and this software is provided by SAP, and we have to purchase it from SAP. So let's take a scenario wherein there is a pharma company called Novartis. Novartis is a pharmaceutical company who would like to manage and operate the entire organization on SAP. Then what does Novartis do is, Novartis is going to purchase the software from SAP, S/4HANA software, they are going to purchase from SAP. So if they purchase it, then you have to customize and configure it. Since Novartis is a pharma company, they are not going to go ahead and customize and configure it. They are going to look for a software company who is going to customize and configure the standard software. For example, let's take the example of Accenture. Now, Accenture is a company who is an implementation company. Now, Novartis can either approach SAP for the softwares, or they can approach Accenture, which will help them acquire the licenses from SAP, because they are partners. Accenture is a channel partner. There are more than 2,500 companies who are topmost companies in the world, software companies who are partners to SAP. Okay, and they will have a very good deal about them. Okay. Okay, so Novartis is one company who is going to purchase the software because they want to manage the entire company on that software, and then Accenture is one of the company who is going to implement it. Okay, so now as I told you, 2,500 plus companies are there who are partners for SAP. Now going forward, what we have here is like now once the software is purchased, please remember that SAP standard software, for example S/4HANA, is 90% ready for client. Now in our example, who is the client? Novartis. This is 90% ready, but the 10% is something which they need after purchasing the software, which is done by our company like Accenture. They will be understanding the requirement of the company, and accordingly they will do the implementation for that particular company. That's what will be done by Accenture. Okay, now when we have to work, we will be sitting in this kind of a company where we are going to do this 10% of the customization configuration, because 90% of the standard is already done by SAP. So SAP has their own company called SAP SAP company, in which they will have employees who will develop the software. So the actual software is developed by the SAP's company employees, but now we have to do the customization configuration according to the client. So let's take a simple example of a phone. When you purchase a smartphone, it is 90% ready for you to use, but 10% of customization configuration is something which you have to do. For example, you have to add the SIM card, you have to configure the login email IDs, accounts, you have to create one account. These all things have to be done, right? Similarly, in the SAP software also we are going to do that. So let's take an example of Novartis as your grandmother. So your grandmother can use the phone, but she cannot configure and customize it according to that. So she will give you some amount and she will tell you to do it, or she'll give you some chocolate or something and she'll tell you you do that customization configuration and you will do that. So what you are trying to do is you are trying to help your grandmother to start using it. So Novartis is such a company. You can compare your grandmother to Novartis. Like they need all the customization configuration according to their business, which they will give it to Accenture, and Accenture will do it, because Accenture is an experienced company in the software field, right? So that's what they will do it. So this 10% of the work that we have to do, the major part is configuration. What are we going to start off our work with is, we are going to start our work with configuration. Now even before the configuration happens, there is administration part that is decided. Like administration part means what? How many employees are going to work in this on this software, how much load happens, how many logins are needed. So there are a lot of things that actually Novartis has to tell, and accordingly they will purchase the licenses. Let's say if Novartis says that we need 1,000 people log in, 1,000 employees are going to log in, then 1,000 licenses have to be purchased, 1,000 logins have to be purchased from SAP software. Okay, SAP company. Similarly, then configuration part is where the functional team will be understanding their requirement. Now we will follow a standard process to do the configuration, which we are going to discuss in detail in the coming sessions. And configuration is something which is mandatory. Without configuration you cannot go ahead and do it. So what are the configurations that we have to do as a functional consultant is something that I am going to tell you detailedly. Mandatory in the sense, like, see, I'll give you an example. Now if I have to do a bank transactions from one company to another company through a software, I need to have this bank accounts been configured. That if the bank account is not configured, then I cannot pay. Okay, that is mandatory. So configuration is always something which is mandatory. Then we have something called customization. Customization is something which is good to have. Like a client needs certain things. For example, I'll give you an example of same bank transaction if you are doing from Novartis to some vendor company. like let's say Dr. Reddy Labs, they are paying to Dr. Reddy Labs. Then when they are paying, if they are paying some let's say minimum below 1 lakh rupees, or say below say $1,000, then they don't need any further approvals. But if it is more than $1,000, they have to go for approvals. And if it is more than $1 lakh or $10,000, then you have to actually take a second level of approval. These all are customizations which needs to be there for the client. Okay, so we are going to do first the configuration, which we are going to learn the configuration. As a consultant, you should be knowing what exactly is the configuration according to your module, and then what is the customization. Now configuration is different for different modules. Finance, there is a different configuration. Material management, there is a different configuration. Sales will have a different configuration. Each module will have its own custom configuration. After customization, there is something called development. Now, who is going to do the development in ABAP? As SAP technical team is going to do the development. Now, this SAP technical team, the major module that we have is ABAP by 4. ABAP by 4 actually stands for Advanced Business Application Programming Language. 4 stands for 4th generation. Okay, and this is a language that is very much similar to the SQL language and all. It's a very easy to understand language, but this is done by the technical team. For example, whoever is coming from the engineering background and all, they learn the ABAP and they will going to work on that particular module. So as I told you, I will make a note of this full form of ABAP. ABAP stands for Advanced Business Application Programming Language. Now, this happens to be SAP's own language. They have created it. See, Java is an open source language and we can develop a lot of things on Java. Python is also open source language, but ABAP by 4 is not an open source language. It's a language which is primarily created by SAP only. Okay, and only for their purpose, only for their developments. Okay, now if you have to see, I told you that whatever the client needs, first we will go for configuration part, then customization. Even before we go for configuration customization, we will have something called administration part. Then if let's say you have a requirement which is not fulfilled by the standard software, then the development team has to be intimated to develop it. For example, there is a new screen that needs to be developed for updating the COVID status of employees. So, COVID status of employees is something which is not a part of standard software. So, who is going to develop that new pages and all? The technical team is going to develop the new pages. Okay, and why do we write 4 is 4th generation. 4 stands for 4th generation. That's the full form of ABAP by 4. Advanced Business Application Programming. 4 stands for 4th generation. Okay, now going forward, like, so each one of us have a different role, and we have got the standard software needs to be purchased, and remaining 10% we have to sit in the software company and do all this stuff. Okay, and this is the roadmap for doing all the developments. First administration, then configuration, customization, development. Now going forward, what we'll have is we'll have a roles and responsibilities. What would be our roles and responsibilities is based on our designation. So if you are technical people, you have to develop something. If we are functional people, you have to do the configuration and customization. If you are admin team, you are into admin team, you have to do the maintenance of the software, implementation, in configuration. I mean, like so installation of the software and all these things done by the administration part. This is what we have. Okay, going forward, we have something called S/4HANA. This is a very important concept. See, till 2010, SAP always used best databases in the world. Whatever database is in the world, they used to use the database. Now, please remember that we need to understand what is a hard disk, database, and software, which is on the top of it. So what is hard disk and what is database is what we need to understand. Let's say you have a library, okay. So you can compare this, you can compare the hard disk as library, database as racks in the library, and software as something like the books or the data. Software in the sense the data that we have in the software is in the books. So what happens is in every software, before we install a software in the hard disk, we first install the database. So on top of database we will have the software. So whatever data we store, that will be stored in the form of tables. So in database we will always have tables. Data is stored in tables. These are called database tables, okay, and these are equivalent to the racks. So if you don't have the database, it will be equivalent to a library without racks. If a library without racks, putting all the books in the middle of the library, it will be like, you know, that will be very clumsy, right? So for that we have a database table. So database tables will actually enable us to arrange all the data in a very sequential manner. This is what we have. Okay. Now going forward, what we need to understand here is that we need to, okay, so why are we understanding this is very important concept. This is a very important concept, okay. I'll tell you about that in detail. Now SAP software till ECC used to work on top of any database. So let's say this is a software, okay, database software. Now in the back end we have something called database. So database will be something like HANA database. No, previously we had something called, no, HANA database was not there at that time. We had something like Oracle database, or it could have been SAP ECC software only, and they could have been used in using a SQL database. SQL database is by SAP, by Microsoft. Okay, so what these clients, in our example we were discussing about Novartis, right? So companies like Novartis used to purchase the database from this Oracle or Microsoft, and then they used to purchase a software from SAP. Okay, so this is how it used to be working in the past. But then in 2010 SAP introduced their own database called HANA database. So from SAP S4 HANA, the database is HANA database. So we were having the HANA database. Okay, so we have got the HANA database, and why they introduced is to make sure that they come with a complete application. See, in the past till 2010, before 2010, all the hardware used to be purchased from different vendors. For example, Intel used to sell the motherboards and processors and all, and the hard disk used to be sold by SanDisk or something. So and HP used to sell some hardware. So in that way they used to purchase hardware from different vendors. Then they used to purchase database from another vendor. Then they used to come to the SAP for just the software. But now SAP is providing it as an appliance. Now what is an appliance? Appliance is a combination of hardware plus software. Just like your smartphone is a combination of hardware and software. Okay, so if I just go to someone and tell, if I go to a shop and ask them, I want a Samsung phone, but I want Android operating system, they say it's not possible, because it is a combination. Like it will come completely, the phone comes in the form of a package which will have the hardware and software together. That's called an appliance. So now SAP started providing only appliances after the 2010. So 2010 to 2015 they had this slow development and all, and slowly they have moved this process or this way of providing the software for all the companies, for all the solutions that they provide. Okay, now SAP not just has ERP solutions, they also have CRM solutions, customer relationship management solutions, supply chain management solutions, data warehousing solutions. So there is another concept called data warehousing. What is data warehousing? I'll tell you later. So in data warehousing, SAP provided another software called data warehousing. In data warehousing, they have provided another software called BW or BI or BW for HANA. This all. Okay, so we have got these softwares, and we have, so SAP provides lot of softwares in lot of different concepts, but then ERP concept is very popular. It's their world's #1 in ERP. Okay, so now we have got this all, and so now let me tell you that now in ERP solution itself, Oracle also has its own software. Okay, Oracle also has its own software called in ERP. This is called Oracle Apps. And then we have ERP 365, Microsoft ERP 365. Lot of companies have come up with this. Oracle has come up with Oracle Apps. Okay, and they have lot of versions of it, Oracle Apps. Okay, so a lot of versions are there in ERP. Now moving forward, what we need to understand is we need to go ahead and understand about the concept of how are we going to proceed with the project. Okay, so what are the different types of projects that we have and all. But now let me tell you that major difference between we going ahead from the old version of SAP ECC and S4 HANA is the backend database. Okay, so the backend database is different. HANA database will be there in the SAP S4 HANA, and SQL or Oracle any other database will be there for ECC. So that's the primary change, but most of our work will be similar. The concepts are very much similar. Navigation might change slightly. Okay, slight changes, but the core will not change at all. The core of configuration and all will be same. But when it comes to S4 HANA Cloud, it might be slightly different, which we are going to discuss later. Okay, so this is about the hardware and database and software concept. And now SAP is rolling out all the softwares in the form of appliances, and appliance is a combination of hardware and software. Okay. Fine. So taking forward from here, now if let's say so there will be basically types of projects in which we might have to work. So if it's the first project is implementation project, second is support project, third is rollout project, fourth one is migration project. Okay, so we need to understand what are we going to do in the implementation project, what are we going to do in the support project, rollout project and migration project, how our roles and responsibilities will be there, how it is changing in the each type of project is something which we need to understand. Okay, so then when we start working on the system, we will be very clear about what is happening and all. So we are understanding the overall big picture. So once we understand the big picture, when we go into our actual work, it will be very clear for us. Okay.